Do you have too many meetings? Are many of them unnecessary and or unproductive? It doesn't have to be this way. We need to and we can have better meetings. Today, I want to talk about better meetings, 3 approaches, and 11 strategies for how you can have better meetings. A recent study from Otter AI and University of North Carolina Chancellor's Professor and award-winning author Dr. Stephen Rogelberg looked at a lot of different meetings that Otter AI was in through Zoom, through other things, and in person, and looked at thousands and thousands of meetings. And their analysis, they found that a third of meetings are a waste of time. A third of meetings are a waste of time. Now, maybe for you, that's a little high, or maybe you think it should actually be more of meetings. One of the things that I often do with groups is this essentialism activity, and I ask groups to sort of set priorities and narrow things down and find what they can let go of. And what I ask is, what could you and your team not do or spend less time doing? And when we do this with individual folks and small groups and large group conversations, there are 2 consistent answers that come at the top, and I've done this with 100 different groups. The number one answer is meetings. The number one thing we can cut or do less of is meetings. And the number 2 thing is emails. Now, the challenge is that meetings and emails is how we communicate, and communication is really important. Connection is really important. Collaboration is really important. And so it's not that we want to get rid of meetings and get rid of emails, because that would be getting rid of mostly how we communicate, and that is so critical to how we operate. So meetings can be an obstacle to progress because they're a waste of time and we think we can just get rid of them. And meetings can empower progress. We need better meetings. So I want to offer you 11 strategies for how you can have better meetings. And these 11 strategies fall into 3 categories or approaches. These 3 approaches are less is more, clarity is key, and better facilitation. The first category of approach is less is more, and there are 4 strategies in this category. The first strategy is cancel more meetings. Most leaders I know are really reluctant and hesitant to cancel meetings. They don't want anybody to think they're not important, that something the leader has else going on is more important. They don't want people to feel undervalued. And so we're really reluctant to cancel meetings. And when people cancel meetings with us, we're thrilled, we're elated. Cancel more meetings. It's a gift to folks. The second strategy is have shorter and fewer meetings. Could your meetings be shorter? Could 90-minute meetings be 60? Could 60 be 30? Could 60 be 50 or 45? And maybe fewer meetings. Do you meet weekly? What if you tried meeting every other week? What if you meet every other week? Could you meet monthly? See if you could have shorter and fewer meetings. The third strategy is invite fewer people. We often want to invite a whole bunch of people so that if they're having a good day, they feel included, they're valuable, and an idea they have, we make sure gets included. And we invite more people because if they're having a bad day, they're not frustrated, angry, and upset about not being included. That leads to what I call being an includer in the basement, which means we just include everybody out of fear of criticism oftentimes, and rather than inviting the right people. So see if you can invite fewer people to your meetings. And the fourth strategy is avoid default meetings. Just because it's on your calendar doesn't mean you have to meet. Just because you meet every week doesn't mean you have to meet this week. Just because these 12 people are regularly invited to a meeting doesn't mean you need to meet with all 12 of those people this week. So avoid default meetings and avoid inviting people just because they were invited the last time. The second category or approach is the clarity is key. And there are 2 strategies here. One is, should this be a meeting or an email? And meetings and emails are the things that the top 2 things that folks say we can get rid of or spend less time on, but that's how we communicate. So here's the delineation between meetings and emails. Succinctly and oversimplified, meetings are great for thinking together, and emails are great for sharing information. If you want people to think and come together and talk with each other and share ideas and brainstorm or decide, meetings are great for that. If you just want to put out information, emails are great for that. If you try and use meetings to share information, one, people won't always remember. It's not written down. If they did write it down in their notes, maybe they lose them. Maybe they don't take notes. Maybe, like me, they might not be able to read their notes. Poor handwriting. And if you try and use emails to get people to think together, you often get stuck and reply all heck, and we don't want that. So meetings are great for thinking together, and emails are great for sharing information. If you share information in emails, it's there. I can look it up. I can search for it. I can come back to it. The second strategy in Clarity is Key is clarify the purpose. Why are we meeting? What is the topic? Are we here to brainstorm and ideate and expand our thinking? Or are we here to constrict our thinking and decide or choose or let go of some possibilities? Do we want more possibilities or fewer? We might have lots of other purposes for meetings, but plan ahead. Think ahead. What is the purpose? Share ahead the purpose of the meeting. Choose the topic or focus. Or maybe you choose not to have a topic or focus, but instead have a question to guide your meeting. So in Clarity is Key, the strategies are, is this a meeting or an email? And clarify the purpose. Our third category or approach is better facilitation. And this is here thanks to my friend and colleague Gavin Henning. I had the previous two approaches, and he said, I think one thing is missing here, and it's better facilitation. And Gavin facilitates meetings very well, and I've been in many of them, and it's so well organized, planned, and executed. And so I added this thanks to Gavin Henning. And there are 5 strategies in this category or approach. The first one is have an agenda and minutes. And agenda helps us before the meeting and at the beginning of the meeting know what the purpose of the meeting is and how we're going to operate. And a minutes helps us through the meeting and after the meeting if we were distracted or we couldn't attend or we had to leave early. So agenda helps before the meeting, at the beginning of the meeting. Minutes help during the meeting and after the meeting. Really good framing. Why are we here and what are sort of the rules of engagement? Is this a brainstorming meeting where we just want to generate a ton of ideas and we'll sort it out later? Say that. Is this a meeting where we're deciding and narrowing and trying to choose by the end of the meeting? Say that. Do we want everyone to give their vote and then the leader will decide? Or are we trying to come to consensus? Or are we going to all share and at the end take a vote and majority rules? Say that. What's the structure? What's the organizing for how we're going to have this conversation, how we're going to think together, and how we're going to conclude the meeting? Framing often happens at the beginning, and it's often repetitive. But just because you said it a bunch of times doesn't mean you shouldn't keep saying it, because people might not have been paying attention. We also need to hear it again. It's also a great reminder. Even if I know what you're going to say, it's a great reminder. Right, those are the rules of engagement for this meeting and for this conversation. The next one is start with celebrations. This is one of my favorites and one I'm famous for, or maybe infamous for. But I always start with celebrations, whether I'm leading a meeting or having a coaching conversation. And there's a lot of great neuroscience around this that helps frame the conversation and prepare our brains to pay attention to what is going well, which then helps us tackle the very real challenges and problems we're facing. And when we begin with celebrations, we pay just a little bit of attention to what is going well and hear what others is going well in their minds and experiences. And then that floods our brains with some neurochemicals that help us be more creative, more open to diversity, and better problem solvers. And so starting with celebrations makes your whole meeting go better. Number 10, and the fourth one in this approach of better facilitation, is engage everyone. Some folks are going to readily engage because they're extroverted or they're confident or they're very enthusiastic about the topic. And you won't need to work to get them to engage. In fact, you might need to work to get them to step back a little bit. Others might be reluctant to engage because they're introverts or they're uncertain or they're distracted or they don't feel confident or they've been dismissed or marginalized for lots of different reasons when they have shared. And so engage everyone and find ways to do that. One of the ways I like to do this is not just say, hey, here's the topic, what do people think? Because that really invites those extroverts who are confident or enthusiastic or affirmed to share. And then oftentimes the first person to share, the whole meeting becomes about whether we agree or disagree with that person's share. And that person anchors the whole meeting. Instead, invite everyone to take a minute to write down their 3 thoughts on the topic. And then folks can share in small groups, in the large group, or share. That gives everybody a chance to think for themselves, and it helps generate more ideas. And then maybe someone might say, I think this, and then people say, well, that's interesting, but I actually was thinking something totally different, and it avoids the anchoring being a detriment to the conversation. And number 11, the last strategy is attend to power dynamics. And this is not last because it's the least important. It's last probably because it's the most important. There are many different power dynamics, from positionality and where we are in the structure to our identities and how systems function to help us experience privilege or not experience privilege, experience oppression. There's relational power and who knows and who spends time with each other, and so much more. We often pay attention to the power that we don't have, and we often don't pay attention to the power we do have. There might be someone who's lower in the organization who's really paying attention to the positional power they don't have. They might not be paying attention to the relational power that they have and how they have lunch every day with most of the people in the meeting. We tend to pay attention to power we don't have because we have to. That's the way the world's set up to work against us, and so we navigate that. So pay attention to the power dynamics, specifically the power that you have, as well as the power you don't have. So those are the 3 approaches and 11 strategies for how you can have better meetings. I'll include in the description a link where you can find all of this in a lot more context. That link will also have resources from Adam Grant, Chad Littlefield, Allison Vaillancourt, and others. If we're going to have better organizations, better leaders, and better tomorrows, we need to have better meetings. And I want to invite you to apply these 11 strategies and these 3 approaches, even when you're not the leader, even when it's not your meeting, even when you're not leading it or hosting it. See if you can apply these strategies when you're attending a meeting, when you're a member of the meeting, when you're a contributor or a participant in the meeting. After all, leadership is a process, not a position. Leadership is a process, not a position. In the comments, please share which of these was the most helpful, or maybe you have an additional strategy you'd like to share. Maybe we'll have 12 or 13 or more. I look forward to hearing from you, and yes, I will read them all. Good luck with your next meeting.